If you couldn't already tell, Tekken is one of my favourite franchises of all time. I've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into countless Tekken titles since I first played one over 20 years ago. But believe it or not, I've never actually played the first game, outside of arcade history and Tekken 5, but I'm not going to count that. So what better way to start my brand new show taking a look at the game that started it all? Let's see if this is the start of something truly great, or if you're better off starting with the franchise somewhere else. I'm Satin Black, and welcome to Tekken It Apart Episode 1, Tekken 1. Tekken 1 would grace arcade cabinets in December of 1994 in Japan, making its way over to the West in early 1995. However, today I will be looking at the console version. This PlayStation exclusive was released in March 1995 for Japan and November 1995 for the rest of the world. This being the first game in the series, there's no expectation, there's no pre-existing knowledge that you need to jump in, and, well, there isn't even any poster boy Jin Kazama here, he's going to come in a little bit later. I'll also just say this here, and I won't mention it again, but in terms of Tekken, I've never really been a frame data nerd or a competitive player. For me, Tekken is a single player experience where I can get lost in the atmosphere of the games and enjoy the progression of the fighters and their stories. So don't expect a technical analysis on this channel, rather a look at what makes every game great, or maybe not so great. I mentioned this in the opening, but this is going to be a recurring chapter in the series, but my experience with this game is probably the lowest of any game in the franchise. I briefly played it on Tekken 5's arcade history mode, but that was like once or twice. I didn't see the need to play a clunky old game when it was literally sitting inside a game that I consider to be perfect. Outside of that, the only experience that I have playing this is literally getting footage for this video. Booting up the game, and I was greeted by quite the opposite of a 3D fighting game. Galaga, a 2D top-down galaxy-themed shooter, which I gave about 10 seconds of my time. Still nice of Namco to include this one. Also, I later found out that it actually has a purpose here, but I'm going to touch on that later in the video. The opening cutscene to Tekken 1 is an FMV showing a few seconds of each of the characters. I actually think this cutscene does a really good job at explaining who everyone is in the few seconds that they're on the screen, just by the activities that they're doing or the setting that they've put them in. And yeah, sure, by today's standard, it's almost comical how janky and odd some of these models look, but I still really like this. The song that plays here is a bit of a strange one. It's kind of like 4 or 5 songs just playing one after the other. It's all really good stuff, but it just has no flow as a complete song. There is a secondary cutscene that plays before the title screen. It's another FMV, and this time it's just of Kazuya. This is probably to cement his main character status, but god, have a go at the creepy eye movement here. After Kazuya hits a kick, we fade into the title screen, and honestly, this is sick. Pressing start here is going to bring up the main menu, staying on the same static background. Our options here are arcade mode, 2P mode, which is 2-player mode for those who don't know. You need a friend to play this as well, so I didn't get any footage here. And test mode, which I was really confused at what test mode is, but turns out that's just the options menu. Straight off the ball, you'll realise that there is not a lot to do here in terms of game modes, but don't forget, this is literally a port of an arcade game. The later Tekken titles are going to have so much content in them. But yeah, off the bat, this does a really good job at getting me hyped to play Tekken. It's good to see that we got that theme here in the first game. I just want to read the story blurb from the manual here because there's a few things that made me laugh in this one. A worldwide martial arts tournament is nearing its final, with a large purse of prize money to the fighter who can defeat Heihachi Mishima in the final round of the competition. The contest is sponsored by the giant financial group, the Mishima Zaibatsu. There are 8 fighters that remain after winning death matches all over the world. The winner of the tournament will receive the title, the King of the Iron Fists. Who will be the one to defeat Mishima and take home the prize money and fame? Will it be you? Okay, so there's 2 things that I want to say about this. Firstly, 8 fighters remain after winning death matches? I can't help but think that the use of the term deathmatch is to try and drag a little comparison to Mortal Kombat, which was booming in the 90s. However, you mean to tell me that the 8 fighters remaining, after killing however many other fighters that they have killed to get to the finals, are just going to fight until knockout now? Anyway, it's the first game, you can excuse this, and there's been heaps of video games where the manual will say one thing and the actual game says something else. So, Tekken 1 is forgiven here. What is unforgivable, however, is referring to the winner as the King of the Iron Fists. I'm glad that'll just get changed to simply King of Iron Fist, but yeah, not much of a story to go off here, but at least we know that our goal is to get to Heihachi Mishima and to beat him. So, let's have a look at the inaugural Tekken roster. Tekken 1's base roster consists of 8 characters with an additional 9 to unlock, and don't worry, you are not going to have to consult your wallet just yet to get the extra fighters. The base roster consists of Yoshimitsu, Nina Williams, Martial Law, Kazuya Mishima, Paul Phoenix, Jack, King, and Michelle Chang. Since there aren't any opening cutscenes or even text screens to tell us about these characters, I'm going to have to consult the manual. Kazuya Mishima, the main character of this game and also the son of tournament host Heihachi. His reason for joining the tournament is basically, I hate my dad, which I'm sure is very relatable to some people. Not me though, I love my dad. Kazuya fights Mishima-style karate, and his hobby is listed as collecting sneakers, which I absolutely love that this got referenced in some promotional material for Tekken 8. That is fantastic long-term storytelling. The bio also tells us that the scar on his chest is from when Heihachi threw him into a trench when Kazuya was just 5. Now this is very important to take note of, because in Kazuya's ending, which by the way is the canon ending of this game, Kazuya takes Heihachi's unconscious body after beating him in the tournament and returns the favour by dropping him off a cliff. He then proceeds to pull the same face that I do when my McDonald's 6-piece nuggets has 7. Paul Phoenix. The manual refers to Paul as a hot-blooded American, which is probably better than any summary that I could come up with. He's entering the tournament because he and Kazuya had once fought to a draw, and Paul considered Kaz to be his rival. Now, don't mind me jumping a bit ahead in the timeline, but it's kind of crazy how far removed from Kazuya Paul will become, especially with all the comedy stuff that starts in Tekken 5. His fighting styles are listed as Judo and an unknown style, and I don't know if it'll be continued to be listed as unknown style or not, but I have a feeling this might have something to do with the fact that this dude can break through brick walls with his fist, and we don't have a name for that. Paul's hobby is listed as motorcycles, which you can see him riding in the opening cinematic of this game, and this is something that's still going strong to this day. Paul's ending is a bunch of clips of him breaking various objects, with the last one being a brick wall with Kazuya's face on it. Honestly, it's one of the more underwhelming endings, but I guess it's still a decent representation of this bullhead. King. King is a Mexican luchador, but the mysterious Jaguarian grappler has a soft side as well. He was an orphan growing up, and his reason for entering the tournament is to use the prize money to fund an orphanage of his own. King to me is still a character that I don't quite understand. Like, he speaks in growls, but there's definitely a man under that mask. You can even see it in the opening. And there he is, putting the mask on. If you're a big old wrestling fan like me, you've probably guessed that King is based on the legendary Japanese wrestling persona of Tiger Mask. You'll also enjoy King's moveset as it's filled with a lot of good wrestling stuff, my favourites being his dropkick and the suplex. King's ending is a lovely wholesome one where we see King return to the orphanage, which I'm assuming he was running before the tournament and needed the money for. The kids run out to celebrate King's win, and they are actually real life children, which to this day I find something off about. But it's still a lovely moment nonetheless. Until you remember that this is not the canon ending, and King never got the money, so the orphanage probably shut down, and now those children have lost everything once again. I also just want to make a quick note that this is King 1, and that's going to make sense in about 2 games' time, but I still wanted to acknowledge the fact that this is King 1. Nina Williams. Touted as the silent assassin, Nina fights with a combination of assassination techniques learnt from her father and Aikido learnt from her mother. Nina enters the tournament to assassinate Heihachi Mishima, but the manual bio alludes to her being here for other intentions. However, I never really got the answer to that in her ending. Speaking of her ending, let's talk about it. We see Anna Williams, the sister of Nina, confront Nina about a missing shoe, and first off, PlayStation 1 feet are the worst thing I have ever seen. Nina takes offense to the accusations of shoe stealing and slaps the ever-living daylights out of Anna. Our closing shot is Anna crying over the shoulder of Nina while she holds up the shoe. You lying asshole. Last thing on Nina, because I actually died at this laughing, but in her bio, in the likes section, it says Tom from Tom and Jerry. Like, what the, why? How did we land on that one? Jack. Now let me start off by saying that this is going to be a reoccurring theme on the series, but I do not like any iteration of the Jacks. I hate them. All of them. I hate their appearances. I hate their movesets. They can just piss off altogether. But who exactly is Jack in Tekken 1? Well, he is and I quote, super slaughtering military machine and super killing robot developed by the Russian military. The Russians apparently got some intel on Kazuya's world destruction plans and sent Jack to the Iron Fist tournament to eliminate him. I like to believe that Jack lost in the first round thanks to a Paul Phoenix Death Fist. Jack's fighting style is also listed as power fighting of sheer force, but I'll let you know when I actually see it. The start of Jack's ending has me really excited as it looks like we're going to euthanize him, but no. No, we're just making more of these pricks, and 10 games later, Jack is still taking up room on Tekken rosters. I hate Jack. Martial Law. Tekken's version of Bruce Lee. Martial Law is a chef who works in Chinatown, San Francisco. Law enters the tournament in hopes of using the prize money to open his own martial arts school. And this is exactly what happens in his ending movie. We see Marshall training a bunch of students. But the movie ends with the students being in awe of Law as he hits his signature backflip kick, which I'm guilty of using about 7 times per fight that I'm playing as Martial Law. Michelle Chang. The daughter of a Native American woman and a Hong Kong man, Michelle was originally working for Heihachi Mishima, where she was tasked with finding an ancient treasure. However, on her 18th birthday, her mother gave Michelle the grim news that some of Heihachi's men killed her father. So, Michelle has entered the Iron Fist tournament to get revenge on Heihachi. Michelle is listed to use all types of Chinese fighting styles, but my absolute favourite thing about her moveset is this fisherman suplex that would make Mr. Perfect blush. Michelle's ending sees her returning home, and upon seeing her mum on a rocking chair out the front, she guns it towards her. However, she leaves her stuff on the ground, which means she's got to walk all the way back to grab it, and then just go all the way back to her mum, and thinking of that makes me exhausted. Now, this is probably why I am not a championship fighter, and instead, I'm a big old nerd on the internet talking about video games. Yoshimitsu. The last of the base roster characters, and probably the most interesting one, is the Maji clan leader Yoshimitsu. The Maji clan are essentially a Robin Hood gang, stealing from the rich, giving to the poor. And this is why Yoshimitsu enters the tournament. He serves as a distraction so other Maji members can steal tournament funds. Yoshimitsu is also interesting for the fact that he fights with a sword, which has been an iconic staple of the character all throughout Tekken and especially in his Soul Calibur appearances. Yoshimitsu's ending leans right into the Robin Hood moniker of the manji, as Yoshimitsu and other clan members ride horses through what looks like a low economical part of town, releasing the prize money upon the people. We even get a first look at Forest Law here, the son of Marshall, and speaking of Marshall, it looks like someone has put a finger in his bum. My favourite thing about the ending is how, as they're riding through what looks like a third world village, it's surrounded by what looks like the biggest thriving city ever. Like, where is this? What place looks like this? Someone tell me. Now, onto those unlockable characters. Every base roster member has a sub-boss that you have to fight before the final fight against Heihachi. Once you finish the arcade mode, your sub-boss becomes available to use in arcade. Sadly, there's no character bios. These guys don't even get ending movies. However, I did manage to find bios for them on the Tekken Zaibotsu website, so I'm going to use the info from there. P-Jack, which is short for Prototype Jack. And man, I cannot tell you how pissed off I was when I realised that I had to play as another Jack in this game. I hate them. Also, I wasn't aware of the character design here. This is an abomination. I'll admit, Prototype Jack's design in Tekken 2 and Tekken Tag is actually kinda cool, but this is just a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and none of it is good. As you probably guessed it, P-Jack is the sub-boss for Jack, which means that after you have the horrible time of playing as Jack, all you get as a reward is another steaming pile of dog shit. As for the Tekken Zaibotsu bio, it says that P-Jack is just another Jack, made by the Russians. This one has less balancing and much more power than the original Jack. Heihachi has entered P-Jack into the tournament to face Jack and eliminate him, as P-Jack hates him. P-Jack is not alone in that thought. Anna Williams, the aforementioned sister of Nina Williams. Not only does she feature in her sister's ending movie, but she is also her sub-boss. And even back in Tekken 1, she comes with all her boob-shaking goodness. Anna was also trained by Mr. Williams in the art of assassination techniques, but was never shown the same love by her dad as Nina received. Anna fell even more out of her father's favour when Nina decided to pursue the life of an assassin, and Anna just wanted a normal life. Anna is entering the tournament to one-up her big sister after all these years of living in her shadow. Armor King. As I mentioned with King, this is Armor King 1, don't worry, that makes sense later, I'm just making sure I mention it. During a match between King and Armor King, King, who was a rookie at the time, damaged Armor King's eye pretty badly. Now, after this match, King would shoot to stardom in the world of pro wrestling, while Armor King's new handicap had the opposite effect. Armor King is entering the tournament to exact his revenge on King, and if it isn't painfully obvious from everything that I just said, Armor King is King's sub-boss. Wang Jinrei, or as he's listed in this game, Jinrei Wang. There isn't a lot here about Wang. He's the game's token old dude. He fights using the style Shinro Kogogen. I really hope I said that right. And he was the best friend of Heihachi Mishima's father, Jinpachi Mishima. Since Jinpachi's passing, Wang has been under the influence of Heihachi, but due to Wang being a very kind old soul, he does not feel comfortable with this. I can't seem to find a reason for him entering the tournament, and he's also the sub-boss for martial law, but I can't actually put my finger on a connection between the two of them. Li Chaolung, the adoptive son of Heihachi Mishima and the rival and sub-boss to his brother Kazuya Mishima. Li is known as the Silver-Haired Devil, and had the same lessons jammed into him that Kazuya did from a young age. He is also the most handsome character in the Tekken universe. That is a fact, not opinion. Kuma. First of all, let me just say that Kuma's design in this game looks like you scribbled on your notebook at school and then gave it some claws and eyes. Now I know this is 1994 PlayStation 1 or 1994 arcade, whatever you want to call it, but Jesus Christ, this is terrifying. I'm actually glad that I didn't play this as a kid, or else I would have snapped the disc, punched my TV, and never played a Tekken game again. We had a similar situation going on here like we did with King. This is Kuma 1. Kuma is Heihachi Mishima's pet bear, who is also trained to be, and I'm quoting the bio, vigilant watchdog. Even though that's not a dog, that's a bear. It's not a very good looking one, but it's still a bear. Kuma is the sub-boss to Paul Phoenix, which in my eyes is one of the top tier Tekken rivalries of all time. I like playing as Kuma in later titles, but here I kind of have the same issues that I did with Jack. He's slow, his kicks have no range, and his hitbox is ridiculous. Now granted, if you can land some of his moves that have a tiny wind-up, they're going to deal insane damage, but I still didn't enjoy it. The Tekken Zaibatsu bio also says, and I quote, that this ferocious beast enjoys human flesh more than brutality itself. Which, look, yeah, I can tell by looking at the thing, but I also think it's quite funny that that's what this Kuma is like when we know that today's Kuma to be a goofy little guy. Kunimitsu. Now there are a lot of weird things going on with Kunimitsu here. First off, in Japan, Kunimitsu is listed as a man, and she even has all of Yoshimitsu's grunts and sounds that he makes cementing that fact. But in the West, Kunimitsu is listed as a woman, which is what they would eventually land on for Tekken 2, giving her a much more distinct feminine look. She is a former member of Yoshimitsu's Manji clan, but she was expelled after stealing for personal gain. Since being out of the Manji clan, she decided to continue to pursue the life of a thief, and has entered the tournament in order to track down the Native American treasure that Heihachi had sent Michelle to look for. Because of this, Kunimitsu is the sub-boss for Michelle, but it makes so much more sense for it to have been Yoshimitsu, especially considering who is left. And that is Gunryu. Last but not least, we have Gunryu, and if you couldn't already tell by the big bopper with his ass out, Gunryu is a sumo wrestler. So nowadays, Gunryu is one of the biggest, no pun intended, jokes in the entire franchise, but it seems back at the start they actually wanted to make him a viable threat. Gunryu was said to be one of, if not the best sumo wrestler in the world, but his failure to maintain the dignity standards expected of sumo saw him not get promoted to the title of Yokozuna. His bio ends with Gunryu separating himself from the world of sumo and entering a world quite the opposite, which I guess is referencing him joining underground fighting tournaments, but still, not a whole lot when it comes to motives. And yeah, for some random reason, he's Yoshimitsu's sub-boss. I can't figure out why. Heihachi Mishima. I'm going to be so real with you. All of the footage that you are going to see here is of me fighting Heihachi instead of me playing as him, because I didn't unlock him. I read a few forums online about how to unlock him, and a lot of people said it's got to be an arcade run with no continues. And no thank you. I am one of the worst Tekken players I know, and even though that's only about 4 people, the point still stands. But I'm going to introduce you to the big bad villain of the first tournament still. Heihachi Mishima is the head of the Mishima Zaibatsu, a company that is known for making advanced military equipment. The Zaibatsu is the main sponsor of the tournament, and Heihachi's reasoning for putting this tournament on is so that he can recruit new soldiers for his own personal use. There's one more thing that I wanted to make note of, and I found this out after I got all the footage and after I wrote the script, so this is a bit off the cuff, but you can unlock the devil attire for Kazuya, and while it looks like arse, it's nice that it's still included here. The way that you unlock this, I believe, is you've got to play like 6 or 7 perfect rounds in Galaga at the start, so I didn't do this because, as I said at the beginning, I played Galaga for about 10 seconds. But I'm sure somebody did this. Let me know if you unlocked Devil in Tekken 1. So while there are a plethora of great characters here, and not so great ones, this game is centered around Kazuya and Heihachi battling for power and seeing who can be the biggest pest to the world. And I really hope you like that narrative because you've got about 7 more games to go. Before I move on to the next section of the video, I just wanted to point out that I tried not to talk too much about appearances, as I'm going to be doing attire ranking videos for all of the games, so that's where I'll go into detail about that. I know I said I didn't want to touch on the gameplay aspect as much, but this section will be used in future videos to point out anything new that gets added. So as for Tekken 1, I'm just going to go over how you play the game. Your face buttons are going to represent a limb of your fighter. X is left kick, circle is right kick, square is left punch, and triangle is right punch. This system opens the door to an endless amount of combos due to how many different button combinations you can use. Square and X together is going to be one of your character's grab moves, while triangle and circle together is going to be the other one. And I love abusing these because they're unblockable unless your opponent hits a grab at the same time. Tekken is like any other fighting game. Two people are going to stare at each other and the announcer's going to say round 1, fight. And then you fight. Health bars are up the top of the screen, as well as the round counter and the fight time. And don't ask me why, but every time I've ever started up a Tekken game since I was little, I always set the time to infinity, because I never wanted to lose on a time limit loss. I'm not really sure why I bothered doing that here, because the fights in Tekken 1 last about 10 seconds, if that. In terms of difficulty, I'm also probably not a good judge of that, as I play these games on easy most of the time because I am a tiny little baby. Even then, I still copped a ton of losses, mainly from Law and Paul. Heihachi was kind of challenging depending on who I was, but other times I got him first try. And if you were wondering about my best arcade run, well, that was surprisingly Michelle, clocking in at 2 minutes and 57 seconds. And my worst, probably to no one's surprise, was with Jack, which took me 12 minutes and 23 seconds because he is the biggest piece of shit in the Tekken franchise. I forgot to mention also that once you've won the fight, you're going to get a cool little slow motion replay of the last hit and then a win pose before you are off to the next fight. The menus and the HUDs for Tekken's first rodeo aren't really anything to be hyped about. The menu is just a PNG background. The character select screen is a very boring colour, and it looks like on the day that they decided to take their tournament render photos, they forgot to pay the electricity bill. The health bars are just going to be a strip of yellow with the red indicating damage. The fighting load screen is another static image of a blue to white gradient, with the fighter's name in a basic font that is coloured with the blockiest yellow and orange gradient I have ever seen. Again, it's nothing special here, but in later games, the visual presentation is going to be peak. Alright, it is time to talk levels, which in my mind is one of the most important things in a fighting game, as this is one of your best atmosphere setting tools. So while nowadays we're used to fully 3D rendered environments, the first few Tekken games actually just have you fighting on an endless flat surface that is surrounded by a 2D PNG. Now, as unimpressive as that sounds, I actually really enjoy a lot of the environments here, so let's go over all of them. Acropolis. This stage is located in Athens, Greece, where you fight in front of the ruins of the Parthenon. Parthenon, I think that's how that's said. You fight on top of a rocky outcrop, and the skybox for this one is a beautiful clear blue sky. Angkor Wat. Taking place in Angkor, Cambodia, you fight on an open field. The sky is also a nice clear blue one here, and an ancient temple is the centerpiece of the background. Chicago. This nighttime level has you fighting on top of a rooftop, being surrounded by the gorgeous pixelated Chicago skyline. This stage's background actually reminds me of the screenshot that I used from Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue that I use for my PlayStation 5 background. Fiji. Fiji takes place on an open field of grass, and if I had to put money on where this one was, I would presumably say somewhere in Fiji. Palm trees can be seen in the background, as well as the beach. We even get clouds in the sky here as well, so we're mixing it up. King George Island. Located in Antarctica, the fight takes place on a snow-covered island while the snow is still falling. I found that quite impressive. The background is full of other snow-covered islands and icebergs, as well as the ocean. This also takes place at night, or at least I think so, because like the sky is darker than usual, but it's not entirely black. So I'm going to say this is a nighttime level. Kyoto. Kyoto, Japan houses this one, where you're going to fight in a courtyard. The background features a Shinto-style shrine and a bunch of trees. I wish I could say more about this one because I really like it, but there's not a hell of a lot to this one. Marine Stadium. This is a baseball stadium based on the real-life Chiba Marine Stadium located in Chiba City, Japan. You fight on the field in the baseball diamond, and the coolest thing about this stage is that the big stadium screen behind you is projecting the fight in real time. I don't know why, but I am really, really impressed by that. Monument Valley. Now this is probably the most unique stage of the bunch. Monument Valley is located in Utah, USA. It's a desert level taking place during sunset, so unique location, unique setting. The background also features butts, which I learnt are isolated hills with steep vertical sides, and they are taller than they are wide. So there's a little bit of extra education for you. Hey, we don't just cover Tekken, we cover a wide range of topics here. Szechuan. This Chinese level pits the fighters on an open plain of grass that is surrounded by a beautiful mountain range. Venetia. The Grand Canal in Venice, Italy hosts the level with the most detail going on. You fight on a stone pillar lined platform overlooking the banks of the canal while the city of Venice can be seen in the background. This is beautiful. I actually really love this level. Windermere, or Windermere, I don't know. I'm going to say Windermere. Let me know if I'm getting that right. The last stop on the tour is located in England, taking place on a grass/rock surface. Big rocks can be seen in the background as well as Lake Windermere itself. The Tekken Wiki also states that this is probably taking place on Belle Isle, which is the only inhabited island on Lake Windermere. I hope I'm saying that right. Overall, I love the selection of levels here. They are all real-world places, and it keeps the game bordered closer to reality, which I know Tekken's going to eventually drift far from, but at least 90% of the stages are real. Them being set in the real world you live in always gives you the extra sense of realism, which I appreciate. I do enjoy how the majority of these levels are beautiful landscapes, and it gives this game such a vibrant aesthetic. My favourite part of any Tekken game is the soundtrack, and I was excited to get here because I'd never really listened to this one before. I am happy to report that from the get-go, Namco were dropping bangers, because this is nothing but pure 90s arcade goodness. The songs are full of awesome synth soundscapes that will get stuck in your head, and there's so much energy to a lot of these tracks that you almost forget it's a fighting game because of how hard you are grooving. Take the theme for Kyoto, for example, and try not to break your spleen while dancing to this. However, I do want to highlight one low point in the soundtrack, because the tune that plays on the Monument Valley level sends chills down my spine every time. This shit has no right to be as creepy as it is. It starts with a menacing Jaws-like bass noise before your ears are assaulted with this eerie screeching noise, and I hated it every single time. The only good thing about Monument Valley was that the song gave me the extra motivation I needed to clear it first time, because I just needed to get the hell out of there and I could not stand listening to it again if I lost. I'll go way more into detail about every track when I get to the soundtrack season of Tekken It Apart, but I still just wanted to summarize the soundtrack vibe for the game retrospectives. So after all of that, how do I feel about Tekken 1? Remember, this isn't me returning to the game, so there's no nostalgia here. This is my first look, and this is also after having played every other Tekken game. I won't lie, I came in with low expectations, as a lot of my favourite series' first games weren't that great, or at least I'd been influenced by more recent better games. However, Tekken 1 was good fun. Sure, it's janky and it's slow, but it works. It's got memorable characters, great soundtrack, good levels, and if you really remember what this is at heart, an arcade game ported to the PS1, this is a good PS1 game. Now, to go back to my starting statement on whether or not you should start the series here, probably not. And I think Namco even agree with me, considering that Tekken 2 and Tekken 3 have made it to the classic catalog on PlayStation Plus, and this one didn't. But I still want to emphasize the fact that I didn't hate my time with this game, outside of the 12 minutes it took to beat it with Jack. I'm going to give the original Tekken for PlayStation 1 a 5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching this video if you've made it this far. I'm so excited to do this series, as I've had so much to say about Tekken my entire life, and I can't wait to get it all out. So if you did enjoy this retrospective, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, because there's going to be a lot more coming very soon. Also, leave a comment below and tell me, is this your first Tekken game, or did you visit it later on like I did? I'm a sucker for a good Tekken discussion, so go ahead and grant my wish for me down below. Again, thank you for watching. This has been Tekken It Apart Episode 1. I've been Satin Black, and I'll catch you in the next video.